Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast that is scheduled for one fall. I am Zell here, and I am fulfilling my punishment for Wrestlemania, where I have to book my first year in WWE. Now, as you can see, there is no video feed because I don't have any batteries, and I need to go get some. So, the way this punishment is going to work, let me... do a little explaining. So, the way this works is you can set yourself at any time period in the WWE. You can go all the way back to the Attitude Era, you can go back to the Hogan Era, you can even do it this day following WrestleMania. And wherever you place yourself, everything after that, you can change anything you want. For example, Brock Lesnar squashing John Cena at SummerSlam. You place yourself in 2016, you can retcon that entirely. Oh, I am placing myself in... Oh, phone, be quiet. I would be placing myself in the 2017 year, following that WrestleMania, of course. The only things I would change would be... I would actually go back a little bit. I would make it so that, though, AJ did debut in 2016, I would, take that back a year. I would set his debut in 2015, but everything he's done is accurate. He feuded with Jericho, he won the title after the brand split. But winning that title... Oh, no, I'm sorry, I lied. He would still debut, he would win that title, but he wouldn't lose that title at the Chamber. He would have a significantly longer title run on that first one, and he would have his feuds with Shinsuke when he came up, Joe, and whatnot. But that would be the only thing I'd change. So, from there... A little background about how I'm placing myself in this world. I would have been what is known as an indie darling, and I would have worked my way around the world. But one of those, at a young age, worked your way around the world. Like, one of those guys who starts wrestling a little too young, and you're just like, ooh, I don't know how this is gonna work. Like I'd say I would make it into WWE at this year, I would say 24. And that would be, after, wrestling for 8 years on the independents, because somehow that happened. But I gained a very popular following. Being known as, for being so young, being known as the Golden Child for winning gold everywhere I've been. And that would be my persona, not this arrogant child, but somebody who realizes, like, I'm young, but I'm going to do amazing things, and you can't stop me from doing these things. So, my debut actually would not happen at the following night after WrestleMania. My debut would come at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, which would be right after WrestleMania. Because, pay-per-views back then were different. At this point, Sheamus has been calling people out every week after WrestleMania looking for a challenge. And at Extreme Rules, he says, it's no different, fella. I want a challenge. So the lights go dark, and you start to hear Gold by Imagine Dragons play, but not just the regular version of Gold. I would probably use that as a heel, maybe. But the Jorgen Ortega remix, which was used in the NBA 2K17 soundtrack. And look that up. I like it a lot. And when they say, when everything you touch turns to gold, the Golden Child would flash on the screen, and everybody would lose their minds. So I would come out, and I'm not going to squash Sheamus, because a guy my size is not a squasher. I would have a decent 10-minute match with Sheamus, And the end would come when he would set up for the bro kick. I would roll under it, turn it into a handspring off the ropes, back into a handspring cutter off the ropes, essentially. Like Jay Lethal would do. And, excuse me, I burped again. Oh my god, I just woke up too, I don't know what's wrong with me. I would turn it into a handspring cutter, 1, 2, 3, Sheamus is beaten. I have won my WWE debut on the Raw exclusive Extreme Rules. So now, we get to the first 2 weeks of Raw where nothing really happens. They kind of throw me in there with some local enhancement talent just to get me known for the people who don't know me, and that's how every match ends, with the handspring cutter, which is known as, for the Golden Child, which is known as the Midas Touch, because it just makes sense, you know? Now, when we get to the third week, we have your WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, because they did not go over in the brand split. You have the New Day, and they are out being heels, because at this time they are heels. And they say that E wants some competition, so who answers but me? I have a nice little match with E. I take him out. And before that, I missed this because I'm looking at my notes and I looked at the wrong row. Before that, Kofi wanted some competition, and Chris Jericho came out and beat Kofi. Following that, E wasn't happy about that. I came out and beat E. So the next week, which is the fourth week of Raw, following the pay-per-view, E and Kofi aren't happy that they lost, so they issue challenges to me and Jericho, but it's switched to, like, I got Kofi this time, E has Jericho. And me and Jericho win once again. So the next week, which SmackDown just had their pay-per-view this weekend, I finally get to make my debut promo. I get in the ring and I say, you know, for those who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. And I introduce myself as the Golden Child. I talk about my accolades, how at such a young age I've been all around the world, often looked at as a prodigy in wrestling, and someone who's taken to the sport almost as quick as, maybe even quicker than, Kurt Angle. Now, I'm going to say that I have many goals, but I have one goal in particular that I set above winning the world title. Not to say winning the world title isn't my ultimate goal, but I have one goal above that. And that goal is, and as I go to say that, you hear Chris Jericho's music, and Jericho comes out. And Jericho tells me how he feels that I've been trying to upstage him the last couple weeks, and he's sick of this independent riffraff coming in and trying to take his spotlight like AJ did before, and he's not about it. So Jericho gets in my face, and it looks like we're about to fight, but then the New Day comes out, and they're like, we're even more upset, because both of you are trying to upstage the tag team champions, and we don't like this. So this leads to me saying that if you guys think you're so good, why don't you put those titles on the line against me and Jericho right now, because we have nothing better to do, and we could easily beat you if those titles are on the line. The New Day is gonna kind of like talk amongst themselves, and they laugh at the thought of Jericho and me as a team. And after telling us, you know, you could never beat us as a team, they say, you know what? We'll do it. And we have a tag team title match. So having that tag team title match, it comes to a head. Jericho ends up hitting the code breaker, and I hit the Midas Touch. 1, 2, 3, your new tag team champions, Chris Jericho and myself. It's one of those, you know, unlikely pairings that happens. So for the next 2 weeks, me and Jericho have matches versus tag teams, and we win, but on top of that, We have backstage challenges that, almost reminiscent of MVP and Matt Hardy back in the day. Saying, you know, I can do this better than you. No, you can't. Yes, I can. And I would win majority of the challenges. Jericho would win some, obviously, because you can't just kick Jericho down. But, so that would go on. And then we would hit the week before Money in the Bank. And we would win. We would get a challenge from a tag. Reading that wrong. We would beat another tag team. And then Jericho would say, you know, let's prove who really is the best. At Money in the Bank, I want a one-on-one match with you. And I would say, you know what? That's fun. Each week, I came out here and I said, I have no problem defending these titles. I have no problem competing for these titles. Or even just competing in tag matches, non-title matches. But I'm a fighting champ. I will put these titles on the line at any time. However, if you want to face me at Money in the Bank instead of defending our tag titles, let's do it. Because at this point, now, in my mind, it's friendly competition. So, Money in the Bank, I face off against Chris Jericho. I win with the Midas Touch. And we get a challenge from a team we haven't faced yet, who has openly been ridiculing us for how we've been handling things. The Club. The Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they come out and they say, you're so willing to be open to defend those titles at every time. How about now? And Jericho jumps on the mic and is like, you know what? Yeah, let's defend these titles right now. We got this. We can handle this. Doesn't matter that we just had a match. We're good. The bell rings. Jericho hits me with a code breaker and leaves me in the ring. Magic Killer, your new tag team champions, the Club. So needless to say, I am not happy with how that went down. So the following night I come out on Raw and I call out Jericho. And I have to ask him, you know, why did it go down that way? What made you think that was the right course of action? And Jericho tells me, you know, I had to get in your head. I had to let you think there was no sense of danger anywhere, and that's what I did. I waited in the grass until my moment to strike. I cost you those tag team titles you were so proud of winning, being here for just a month. And I proved I am smarter than you. Jericho doesn't come to the ring. He says all this from the Titantron. And I challenge Jericho to a fight, and Jericho's like, I'll pass. I've already proved I'm more intelligent. And he leaves. So the following week on Raw, I have a match. I win that match. It really doesn't matter against who. But I get a code breaker from Jericho following the match. So I'm even more upset about this. The following week, which is the third week after Money in the Bank, I try to attack Jericho after his match, but he just gets away. He runs to the back, and I am in the ring, seething with rage. Now, the fourth week after Money in the Bank, I am looking for Jericho the entire show. I open the show trying to call Jericho out. He never shows up. I said, all right, I'm going to go back there and find you. And throughout the show, you see little skits and vignettes of me backstage trying to find Jericho and just not finding him at all, just finding everyone else. At the end of the night, I go back in the ring and I call him out again, saying he's a coward, he's hiding, he doesn't have the balls to face me in this ring because he knows the last time he did, I pinned him right in the middle of this mat, 1, 2, 3. And that all comes to a head when I turn around into another code breaker. Jericho gets the upper hand again, and he is laughing like the heel that he is. So now it's the first Raw after SmackDown's pay-per-view, and we are on the road to SummerSlam. Jericho's making his entrance, and I jump him. I flat out just jump him during his entrance. We're separated by security, and that's the end of it for that week. The following week, I am jumped by Jericho in a backstage interview trying to address the situation with him and how hostile it's gotten. And once again, that's really it for that until the main event is going on. It is a very hyped up main event. People have been waiting for this forever. And Jericho in my fight spews from backstage into the ring. And it ruins the match, and nobody's happy about that. The following week, arriving at the show, I am jumped by Jericho in the parking lot. And Jericho's in the GM's office asking to be separated from me, and I jump him in the GM's office. We get to the last week before SummerSlam. There's a brawl with Jericho backstage. We get separated by the locker room, and Triple H says, "Enough. This is enough. I can't take this anymore. You two clearly can't coexist or be professional. So at SummerSlam, you two are going to have a ladder match, and the loser leaves Raw." So we pull up on SummerSlam, and Jericho and I have a brutal ladder match. As we know, Jericho is phenomenal at working ladder matches. Me being an athletic young guy kind of just makes the ladder match not made for me, but pretty good match type for myself. Now, the match comes to an end when we are both at the top of the ladder, reaching for the belt. I knock Jericho off. He lands on his feet, bounces off the ropes, comes back, and tips the ladder over. Not only to knock me off the ladder, but the ladder not being entirely centered, I not only fall out of the ring, but through one of the announce tables that was previously taken apart. Jericho sees me go down, and he stumbles back to his feet. He's laughing, because at this point he's like, the match is over. There's no way he's getting up. So Jericho takes his time, sets up the ladder, and climbs it one rung at a time. The boos are raining down, because everyone knows what's about to happen. And he slowly makes his way up. And he's about 2/3 of the way up. And he looks over, and he sees me crawling. But to this point, I am, after he hears the cheers, I am at, like, the apron of the ring, trying to pull myself up to the point that I can grab the bottom rope. And Jericho's face is like he's seen a ghost. He doesn't know how this has happened. He thinks, did I take too much time? Even then, he still shouldn't be moving. Jericho quickly runs up the ladder, grabs the contract. I am gone from Monday Night Raw. But we know how that works with the brand split. We jump over to SmackDown Live, and this is actually the announcement for a number one contenders 8-man tournament for the Intercontinental Championship, the Miz's Intercontinental Championship. And I am, I'm not announced for it previously. You get to the last match of, not the last match of the night, but the last match for the tournament for the night. And someone's standing in the ring, and it really doesn't matter who. And they knew that this last spot was secret, as Shane McMahon said it was a surprise. And he's waiting in the ring, and then my music hits, the place goes crazy. I win, I move on to the next round, which would be the semis, I believe. Because I said 8-man? 2, 4, 6, 8. My cats, I don't know what they are doing. Oh my god. Yeah, so I would move on to the semis. The second week, they have both of these semifinal matches, and I come out of one, and out the other is Zack Ryder. The following week, which is week 3, which is right before the pay-per-view, which would be Night of Champions, Shane announces that, we're not going to do this match this week. We're not going to do this match next week. We're going to do it at the pay-per-view at Night of Champions. Next week, Zack Ryder and myself will have a face-to-face. And that would be the build-up to the match. So, that week, the SmackDown before the show, Zack comes out, I come out, we're having our face-to-face, and I tell Zack, I've watched him, I respect everything he's tried to do in WWE. He's been held down since day one, and he deserves so much more. Unfortunately, I am what's standing in his way. And Zack tells me, being on the independents, I've had a good career for somebody so young, but it's not my time. At the end of the day, though, it's all respect. And it's come, I was going to say Money in the Bank. Come Night of Champions, either of us are ready to do whatever it takes to become the number one contender. So at Night of Champions, myself versus Zack Ryder, they gave us a 15-minute match, which is good because I personally do feel that Zack Ryder deserves better. But the match comes to a head when I am setting him up. I hit him with a super kick. I knock him down. I'm setting up for the Midas touch. The lights go out. They come back on. The ref does not know what's going on. He's looking in the entire wrong direction. I get hit with a code breaker. Jericho rolls out and rolls under the ring. And Zack Ryder ends up picking up the scraps, hits me with the Rough Rider, 1, 2, 3. He is your number one contender. So it turns out that Stephanie was very impressed with Chris Jericho interfering with SmackDown's show. Stephanie awards Chris Jericho a Universal title match at the following pay-per-view, which I believe is Hell in a Cell. I come out on SmackDown and I address the Chris Jericho situation. I addressed that I thought I was done with Chris Jericho. I thought Chris Jericho was in my rearview mirror. He got the best of me, so be it. It was over. But apparently, Chris Jericho has unfinished business with me. And I say, you can do a lot of things to me. You can beat me. You can brutalize me. But there's one thing you don't mess with, and that is my title opportunities. Chris Jericho has crossed the line, and he's going to learn what it means to cross that line. So, a second week, I go backstage, and I find Zack Ryder, and I'm like, hey, good job winning the match. And Zack Ryder, he's not happy with the way he won it. He's not happy that Chris Jericho interfered. And I say, but you know what? It's water under the bridge. I don't care that I care that Jericho interfered, but I'm not here to ask you for a rematch for the number one contendership. I just want a straight up match for my own pride's sake next week. And Zack Ryder says, you know what? You got it. So the following week, Zack Ryder and myself have a rematch. And in this one, with no interference from Chris Jericho, I pick up the victory. So the next week of SmackDown, I don't show up. A few people are wondering where I am, but they have no idea. So at Hell in a Cell, Jericho is on the verge of winning the Universal Championship, and I cost him the title. Jericho is irate. On Monday, he shows up and he is screaming at Stephanie, saying, this is ridiculous, I need another shot, blah, blah, blah. And Stephanie says, well, Jericho, it clearly seems that you weren't fit for the Universal title if you couldn't overcome that interference. I come out on SmackDown and I say, Jericho, it's tit for tat. I'm going to play the game exactly how you play the game. So if you want to play dirty, I'm going to play dirty. But this needs to end. I got one up on you at Money in the Bank. You got one up on me at SummerSlam. At Survivor Series, this ends me versus you in a last man standing match. To which Jericho accepts the following week on Raw. The next couple weeks, it's just me versus a couple of low card guys just to build up myself. Same thing with Jericho, building himself up. And the show before Survivor Series, Jericho cut this promo talking about this is the last exchange between us. He's going to prove why he is the best in the world. Excuse me again, and why nobody can hold a candle to him. And I'm nothing but a spoiled brat and a stubborn child. I cut my promo saying, once again, this is the end. This is the last exchange between us, but I'm going to prove that you are nowhere near the best in the world, and everything you say is a falsery, and you are a pretender to the king's throne. The golden child is going to prove why he is the golden standard. So we have our last man standing match. Once again, Jericho is really good at these matches. And it is a very, very brutal match with a few cringy spots. It brawls backstage. It brawls back in the ring. It comes to a head when I hit the Midas touch. But I don't end it there. I pick him up and I hit him with a gory special flatliner. For those who don't know how that move looks, so think about it as you're setting up to pick them up for a powerbomb, but then you pull them up almost into a razor's edge. Their legs, because you're bending down, lock over onto your thighs, and you have their arms clenched in yours. So to make it a flatliner, you lean over and you grab their neck almost in a Sister Abigail position, because that's essentially a flatliner. And then you pull back, face first into the mat, and Jericho's down for the 10 count. After that, do you remember the WWE.com interviews they used to do with Michael Cole? I actually really liked those. I get one of those, and it's essentially Michael Cole asking about everything that happened with Jericho. I recap it all. I say, I don't know what his issue was. He probably felt that I was stepping on his territory, but it is what it is, and the better man came out of the feud, and that's really all that matters. Cole asked me about the upcoming Royal Rumble, because that's only a couple months away. And I say that I would be, ecstatic to be in my first Royal Rumble. And hopefully I can win it and go on to face the champion. Because that is, one of my ultimate goals. And he asked about the ultimate goal that I brought up when I first got here that I never got to clarify. And I say, well, you know what? You might just have to wait till the Rumble to find out now. So next week on SmackDown, there's a whole bunch of Rumble talk setting up for that. But first, we have to get through TLC. Ziggler, who has had issues with Corbin and Del Rio, is having a match with Baron Corbin. But he gets attacked by Corbin and Del Rio, and I come out for the save. So the following weeks, we have interchanging matches, like Ziggler with me as his manager versus Corbin with Del Rio. Myself with Ziggler as my manager versus Del Rio with Corbin. Myself versus Corbin with Del Rio, and so on and so forth. So a tag match is set for TLC. And Shane says the winning team will get the final spot on the Royal Rumble. So Ziggler and myself face off against Corbin and Del Rio. Ziggler hits a super kick. I hit a Midas touch. We pick up the victory. So we don't do anything the following week, but the week after that, the second week, me and Ziggler are kind of, talking backstage, all amped up about the Rumble spot that we secured. And we get interviewed, and we say, this has been fun being a team, but when it comes to Rumble, it's every man for himself, and we understand that. And then Shane comes, and he's like, there you guys are, I've been looking for you. So I've been meaning to tell you, you did win your match. Congratulations. However, there is only one spot left. So at the Rumble, Ziggler and myself are going to face off, and the winner gets the last spot in the Royal Rumble. So once again, the next week we don't really do anything, but the show before the Rumble, Ziggler and myself got a promo with each other saying, we have a lot of respect for what each other does in the ring. We have a lot of respect for each other's ability, but at the end of the day, it is about being champion. It's all respect. May the best man win come the Rumble. We get to the Rumble, and Ziggler and myself open the show. Anybody who watches Scheduled 4 and 4 knows I like Dolph Ziggler a lot. He is one of my favorites. I feel like he is very underrated in the ring and on the mic. And I feel like he deserves more. He is one of those guys I feel like deserves more. Ziggler and myself, they give us a 15-minute opener, I'd say. And Ziggler comes out on top. Ziggler gets the last spot. I am out of the Rumble. They do an interview the following SmackDown where... Not the following SmackDown, I'm sorry. Post-match with Ziggler. And they ask me, what's next for me? And I say, that's a good question. And that's the only answer I have. I leave. The following weeks on SmackDown, Ziggler and myself have started teaming more. We continue to pick up steam, and we end up in a Fatal 4-Way tag match at Elimination Chamber for the tag titles. Now, Ziggler and myself don't win, but we don't take the pinfall either. They ask, in a post-interview on WWE.com, they say, not in a post-interview on WWE.com, I looked at the wrong notes again. They ask, the following SmackDown, you guys had a good showing, it seems like you had the tag champs beat. Do you plan to challenge them for WrestleMania? And Dolph says, that's a good question. We really need to discuss. Are we gonna stick through with this tag thing? Like, what do we have planned here? And I tell Dolph, as great of a time as it is tagging with you, and as much as I would love to be your tag team partner, there is one thing I have to do before I team with you. So at Elimination Chamber, how I said AJ Styles had a longer title run, John Cena beat Styles at the Rumble, and this was the chamber where Bray Wyatt, wins the WWE title. So AJ comes out and says, so I lost my WWE Championship, and I lost the rematch, with WrestleMania looming around the corner. And there's just one question. What is next for AJ Styles? And that is when my music hits. And as I'm walking to the ramp, I grab a microphone. Well, I have a microphone. And I say, let me tell you a story, AJ. When I got into this business at the young age that I did, there was one wrestler that I followed. Almost quite literally. There was a point when I signed with a company that brought nothing but total nonstop action. And the day that I signed, the guy that I was following that I wished so desperately to fight left for a different promotion. But you know what? I signed the contract. I spent my time there. I helped hone my craft. And I said, you know what? I'm heading over here. Because I'm going to get my match with him. And when I got there, that man left for Japan. But I said, you know what? It's no big deal. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to hone my craft. And when this contract's up, I'm going to Japan. And when I signed with Japan, that same superstar decided to sign with the WWE. So you know what? I spent a year out in Japan. I honed my craft. And then I signed with WWE. But the thing was, not only were we on different brands, that man became champion. By this point, I'm obviously in the ring standing face to face with AJ. And I say, so at that point, I had a goal to win the Royal Rumble, but I didn't earn my spot. But I felt just a little bit better because somebody, that champion, had lost their title. Obviously, I feel bad for anybody who loses a title, but when Elimination Chamber passed and that champion lost his rematch, I knew that this was my moment. AJ Styles, I have followed your career and I've wanted nothing more than to face you in the ring. And now I can complete my ultimate goal, what I set out to do when I signed with the WWE. The one thing I want more than winning a championship, I am challenging you to a match at WrestleMania. AJ kind of would laugh and is a little taken aback. But at the same time, he says, I'm flattered that you follow me so well. But are you sure this is what you want? Because, no offense, kid, you're a kid. But in the end, AJ does end up accepting the match. And over the next few weeks, we, not like I did with Jericho, we had a one-upsmanship contest, in a way. He would win a match, I would win a match. We would do a beat the clock challenge. One of us would come out on top. They would even have us team. And before WrestleMania, it's once again, it is a respect thing. It is a may the best man win situation. So I go into my first WrestleMania match, and it is against the phenomenal AJ Styles. And for this match, they give us about 25 minutes. And AJ and myself just tear the house down. AJ hits a Styles Clash. I kick out. I hit a Midas Touch. AJ kicks out. First guy to do so. AJ goes for a phenomenal forearm. I duck it. I hit the gory special flatliner that I never had a name for. And it all builds to a head. AJ goes for a phenomenal forearm one last time. Just like in my first match with Sheamus. I roll under it into the handspring for the Midas Touch. Get the cover. 1, 2, 3. I pinned AJ Styles at WrestleMania. And that is my first year in the WWE. Now, that is a whole lot for a year. But that's how I would book it. That's how I would book it with my character and how I would love for it to go. But, thank you for sitting through this punishment. It is a really, really long punishment because it's a whole year. But, like, share, subscribe, comment, and tell me how would you book your first year in WWE if you could. And, we will see you for the regular show that airs at Fridays at 5. Catch you later, guys.